The first 6 months of this year, I have gotten a 5-star every single month. I've had a streak going, and July just broke that streak. Let's talk about it. Hello, book nerds! Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome! I am a Christian wife and mother who loves books and loves reading. I read from a Christian perspective with a biblical worldview, and I read a lot of clean and Christian books, but I will read secular and give you content and let you know what's in it, what to steer clear of, etc., etc. I'm a very mixed bag here, and we do all genres. So welcome in. Very happy to have you here. Today in particular, I am talking about all the books I read in the month of July. So I am excited to dive in with you guys. All right, so for all my stats fans, I actually have some stats at the beginning here. I read a total of 10 books this month, so I didn't do too shabby. I definitely had some reading lulls where I was not reading at all, but because of the times that I was reading a lot, I still ended up hitting about my average. So very happy with that, and that ended up being about 3,356 pages according to Storygraph, and my average rating this month was a 3.58 star rating. So 50% of my reads this month were digital, which if you're new here that might not seem odd, but I'm a pretty physical paperback reader for the most part. I do some digital, don't do a lot of audio. This was my audiobook month though, guys. 40% of my books were audiobooks. I know, that's insane. I think that's the most audiobooks like I've ever listened to. So, and only 10% was print. So I'm pretty sure I only picked up one physical book this month. So it's going to be a lot of pop-ups today for us. But that is my stats. And we're just gonna dive in and talk about it. I'm gonna go in the order that I read these books. All right, the first book that I read in the month of July was Ocean of Sun. This is by Hallie M. Castro, and I give this a 3.5 stars. This is categorized as a Christian contemporary romance. It was on my TBR for the previous month of June. I did not get to it, so I got to it right at the beginning of July. I think I might have started it like on the last day of June and finished it up a couple days into July. So this was interesting. It primarily takes place over in England, London, something like that, across the pond. And it is a girl from Texas going over there for a job, and she meets a boy over there, but he's not even from there. I think he's from France. I want to say France. They both have emotional things that they are dealing with and struggling with and juggling, and very contemporary romance, a little like literary type of fiction, I guess, like fiction-y with the writing styles, I guess, the prose. I enjoyed the prose. I enjoyed the writing style. One thing I will say though is this seemed like something that I could have just picked up at Barnes and Nobles, like a secular book, if that makes sense. Just the way it was written in the prose, very lyrical, and there wasn't like God talk all the time. She does label this as Christian. I would say the biggest thing that I would put on this is that it's very light in the Christian aspect entirely. I do not recall a lot of specific Christian content. I think there was like one or two instances, a couple things said here and there, but it was really just about the characters, and she definitely could have put more in. And I think for me, I felt like there could have been more in at the end. It would have been a more full circle moment, and there was some stuff in there, especially some themes of like forgiveness and stuff is in there, and there is definitely some stuff, but it's very light compared to like if you look at a lot of other like Christian fiction that is specified as Christian fiction. It is very light. I would say this is more contemporary romance with some very light faith threads woven in. I don't know if I would necessarily classify it as Christian. On the other like flip side of this, I do think that these are the type of books that you could recommend to anyone, even if they aren't religious. You know, like it wouldn't really bother them, or it might strike up a conversation or intrigue them on some aspects, you know, that type of thing. Like it's something that I feel like anybody could enjoy because it's not a very big part of the book and it's very small and there's just a few little things, but it could help. Or if you are a Christian, you're getting used to, or like just wanting to dip your toe in and you're not wanting to be like overwhelmed with stuff. I know we all like want different things when we first like dive into different genres genres, I think it would be good for that. But that is kind of in my head what I classify it as, is just a contemporary romance with some like faith threads woven through. So that's what I personally think of it as. But anyway, I didn't really talk much about the book. I talked about the categorization. I liked this book though. The main couple was super sweet and cute. It focused a lot on each of their character developments individually, even though there was some stuff going on pairingly. And I honestly enjoyed how this didn't jump in to something because of some stuff in the character's past. They didn't just jump in. There is a friendship, and it is mostly a friendship throughout it and kind of working on yourselves more. I think that's probably where the faith elements I feel like could have come in more though, is that they didn't talk too much about that in the realm of when they were like trying to work on themselves and get better. And I think like as a Christian, especially if you're claiming it to be a Christian, I think that aspect is really where I would have liked to see a little bit more on the page and conversation of this is how I'm healing through Jesus, not like my own will. Nonetheless, I still really liked it, and there were some really cute things about it. I enjoyed my time. I am not against picking up this author again. Yeah, I would recommend this if you're looking for this. I will say this has a very beachy cover, and it's not it's not very beachy. There's only like one scene-ish that they're at the beach. So most of the time they're just in Europe and in the city. There's a little bit in Texas, back in the States, and then there's like a little part at the beach. So yeah, the cover is a little deceiving, but those are my thoughts. So if you are a sensitive reader, I would just say check my trigger warnings, because like I said, the characters are dealing with a lot, so there is some heavy stuff mentioned. Not too heavy, but it's mentioned, you know, so check that if you need to. It's down in my description box. And the quote that I picked out for this one, because if you're new, I like to say a quote from every book, whether I liked it or not. And that is, "My mother always said that cynicism is easy. It's braver to look at the bright side of things." All right, and then the second book that I picked up was a little novella called Red, White, and Rodeo by Cassandra Jolie. This I read like on the 3rd and 4th, so for like a little 4th of July read, and I gave it a 3 stars. It was a cute, fun little novella. It is a Christian fiction, also Christian romance, and most of my qualms with most novellas, but I knew that it was probably going to be that going in. I just couldn't get too overly attached to the characters. You know, it lacked some development and some build up and stuff like that, but that is all pretty typical for novellas because there's only so much you can fit in. I am very much interested to check out more by this author though, but overall this was just like a cute little romance, second chance type of romance. So there is a little bit of a push and pull, and your character that you are supposed to be rooting for is not on page very much, which I found kind of annoying for just a short little novella myself, but that's my own qualm, I guess. The quote that I picked for this one was, "Time spent on the one you love is never wasted." All right, guys, and now the book that I'm sure you all came to hear me talk about, Mistborn, The Final Empire. This is book 1 in the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson, and I gave this a 2 stars. So sorry about it, but we won't talk about this for a second. I'm gonna rant a little bit. Y'all. This book was boring. This book was boring. It was like the setup at the beginning was so poorly done. I did not like it at all. It took way too long to even get interested in the book. Like, I didn't care a flying flip about anything until over 30%. And even then, it was very little. Like, very little. Also, he doesn't even set up the second book very well, because I also don't care about the second book. He ended the first like well enough that you don't have to continue on, which isn't always what you want to do if you're writing a trilogy and you want people to continue. Along with that, I just think it was poorly written. Like, I really do. This book was so like repetitive. He was saying the same thing over and over again. He was describing things that didn't matter. He was using too much words to describe things. He was saying the same things with different words, literally a sentence over. It was ridiculous. And guys, if I have to hear somebody say "the final empire" again, I might scream. Because oh my gosh, that man said that phrase like every other sentence. I lost count. I stopped counting, and then I looked after, and he says it over 100 times in the book. Like, I'm sorry. What is the point of that? It was so annoying and so jarring and just took me out of the story. I listened to this mainly on audiobook. I did do a little bit on my Kindle, like digitally reading, but oh my gosh. I was so annoyed. I didn't like it. It took me too long to like get anything or to be interested in anything. It seemed like a lot of the things that were happening was overdone and I'd seen 100 times. I pretty much guessed most everything that happened. And I will say, I'm not a big fantasy fan, guys, okay? So like, I might be like, oh, no, I give us a pass. You know, I'm just not fantasy. But no, my husband read this with me, guys, okay? Mr. Joshua, okay, read this with me too. And he is a fantasy fan. He's a fantasy boy, okay? He reads all of it. He loves Tolkien and, oh gosh, what is that one series that he's read? Wheel of Time series, I think. Is that it? Is that the Sanderson one that he's read, or is that a different one? There's one really older one that he's been reading. Anyway, and there's also Sanderson that he has read. He stopped reading it because the later books started putting stupid content in it. But he liked that one okay. And he said this one was like, there were so many things that he did not like about this book, and the writing and the plotting that Sanderson clearly got better at, because I did hear this is his second book only, so I see that. Yeah, you didn't know what you were doing yet. So, you know, nonetheless, when I was talking to my hubby, I was like, I don't know what's going on. I'm so confused. This is so stupid. What the heck does that mean? He just said this and that and blah, 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 and everything. And he just looks at me like, you know, like everything's fine and dandy. And he's just like, well, Kadri, you know, he's a Mormon, and Mormon's theology is all over the place, so it makes sense that their fantasy would be too. It just kills me when I'm trying to complain about a book. So anyway, I did not like this one. I would not recommend it. I'm sorry to everybody who likes it. I guess I'm glad you like it. I just don't understand why. I really don't. Like, there's better fantasy, guys. Go read better fantasy, please. And all the Sanderson Sanderson fans, I'm sure I'm gonna get them and get the hate in the comments. Oh well, I don't have much to say to you besides I thought this was a horrible book. So yeah, but I have a quote for it. So, and that is, men rarely see their own actions as unjustified. There you go. All right, and now the one book that I actually read physically, and that was Tea with Elephants by Robin Jones Gunn. Another unpopular opinion coming in. I'm sorry, I didn't love this book. I know everybody loves this book. It's this big popular Christian book. I give it a 3 stars, okay? So I didn't like hate it, but I had problems with it. I told y'all this was gonna be a saucy one, okay? Yeah. So this book, I will say some of her writing is pretty. There were some lines in here that I really enjoyed and thought was nice. And then there were other lines, like when she tried to compare herself to a hunter because she took photos. No, sweetie. Don't do that, sweetheart. There's also a jarring animal eating another animal scene. Now, I will say she was very correctly detailed, and that doesn't really bother me too much. I've read Jurassic Park. I've read a lot worse about entrails, y'all. But completely jarring for the book. It makes you think that more is going to happen, that there's going to be deeper stuff in this. And then there's not. There's not. So I think that was one of my main qualms, is I felt like this has been talked about as such a big book within the Christian booktube community. I thought there was going to be more to it. I thought there was going to be more faith, more richness in this book. And I wasn't seeing it. Like, I wasn't. I was like, this is very surface level. And there was some good stuff, but not like a lot for how much hype this book gets. And there was just some stuff that bothered me. I mean, for one, we follow 2 friends and we only get the one friend's perspective. So the other friend kind of seems like a crazy woman in some aspects. She's having problems with her husband, regretting her marriage. We have no idea why. She doesn't say a single thing. And for me, the main thing is so much of it and the conflicts and stuff. It felt like very secular. It felt very worldly. Like, this is a Christian book, and it didn't feel like they were dealing with it as Christians would, or talking about it as Christians would, or from a biblical perspective. And I think that is one of my biggest qualms, is I wanted to see those issues, but I wanted to see them from this biblical lens. And a lot of times we were just not hearing what the actual issues were. We were avoiding it, and then we were just getting a tiny little bit, but then also like most of the whatever was, well, make a list and do this. And it's like, it wasn't bad, but it's like, where are you putting Christ in that equation? So didn't love this book. I'm sorry for everybody who did. There's better out there, guys. There's better. Very pretty cover, but there's better. And if you want to read about entrails, go read Jurassic Park. So I probably scared off half my audience with that. Who wants to read about entrails? Well, I don't necessarily want to, but quote for Tea with Elephants is, "And the king of the beast was last in eventide worship to the true king." Really like that quote. Next book is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I also gave this one a 3 stars. In retrospect, I do think I liked this. I don't know. I feel like I liked it slightly more, but you know, my brain is weird. This one is a secular YA mystery though, so just keep in mind when I rate things, I also rate them determined on their genre, okay? If it's not Christian, I am going to rate it as if it's not a Christian. And if it's a Christian fiction, I'm going to rate it as if it's a Christian. And sometimes for me personally, Christian fiction, just having faith threads and stuff like that will come higher. Like a non-Christian book without those types of things might have a harder time getting up higher, if that makes sense. So anyway, I don't know why I explained that to you, but I did. What were we talking about? A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Okay, so I listened to this one on audiobook also completely, and they had a full cast audio, so that was pretty cool. You got to hear like the tape recorder or like the telephone and like little, you know, that was cool. I've never listened to like a full cast audio before, so I enjoyed that aspect. I will say I have read another by Holly Jackson. I think I liked this one more than the reappearance of Rachel Price. I just feel like the end of that one was just like crazy psycho, but like at the same time, it was partially the only good part about the book. Because the first 3/4 just wasn't that gripping or interesting and you were waiting for something better to happen. It was just, it wasn't my favorite. But this one, I felt like I was more engrossed throughout it. So I really did enjoy it. There is quite a bit of content, secular, so check that down below. It's not completely clean. It is clean of sexual content, though, for teens, but it's got some other stuff in there. So my quote for this one was, "Maybe laughter was one of the very first things that you lost after something like that." So devastating. All right, next that I read was Emma Lion Volume 7. This is another audiobook, and I read this with my girl Alma. I've been having such a good time reading this with Alma. And this was a 4 stars. It's by Beth Brower. If you don't already know, we only have one more to go until we're all caught up with where the series is at, which I'm very sad about. This one, I feel like slowing down a little bit with some certain things, but still very enjoyable and still a lot of like, what moments. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't even know what I want to happen anymore. She's making me question what I want out of the series. What is that a determinant of? But anyway, I can't say much about this one because it's the 7th, so I'm just going to read my quote. "There is never time for what one plans to do, only what one does." Next up was actually an arc that I read, and that is Armour of Light by this man here that I'm not going to try and butcher his name, and I ended up giving this a 3.5 stars. So this book is entirely focusing around spiritual warfare, and in particular what that could look like in the spirit realm. So we spend a lot of the book like in the spirit realm. It's a very interesting concept, and I liked things about it and didn't like other things. There were some things that just felt like weird or jarring, and I will also say this is supposed to be an adult fantasy, and the way that it was written and how quick and repetitive a lot of things were reminded me a lot of a middle grade fantasy or YA fantasy in particular. So I understand in ways like we as Christians are constantly messing up, so like we're doing the same thing over and over again, and I got that concept, but it was kind of hard to read because of how fast the story was going, just so back to back repeatedly, that it really just didn't feel quite adult to me. At the same time, there is very much adult content in this, so be wary of that. Oh, it was interesting. There were definitely things that I enjoyed though. I loved just the way he used the armor of God in the story and the way he referenced that, and they were literally on a journey to get all of the armor of God and put it on to fight for the war, and just laced with scriptures around that and throughout that, and there were some really great parts around that, and that was probably my favorite thing about the book. But there was some jarring things, and there was some tiny things that I like didn't completely agree with, or I'm not sure, you know, if I completely agree with some of those, like, I don't know if that's a, you know, thing. But all in all, not a bad book. I definitely think others could probably enjoy this a lot more than me, but I don't know if it would be for everyone. You know, I am interested. He is making a second one, and I am interested to check it out when that comes out. So, and the quote I have for this one is, "God loves impossible odds." The next book that I read this month was The Burning Bridge by John Flanagan. I also read this one on audio, and I ended up giving this a 3.5 stars. So this is a middle grade, and it is the second in the series. So we are continuing to follow our characters from the first, and we're kind of on a different adventure. I enjoyed this this one. It was a little bit slower. I feel like not quite as grasping and interesting throughout the entirety, but it ended on a much more interesting note than the first one did. And I can tell that the series is going to take a completely different direction than what it was taking before. There was also some great like character growth throughout this one. So it's definitely one that I think I'm going to like continue on with. This does have a lot of themes of like what true courage is and stuff, and doing stuff even if you're afraid, friendship themes and stuff like that, and like doing what's right. So I like those themes. They're good for boys and girls, but boys do tend to go to fantasy a little bit more than girls. So I will put some content warning on that one down below, but it is a middle grade, and I do think that like so far the themes in it have been like good and positive. So the quote that I picked for this one was, "When you can't see the reason for something, look for the possible result and ask yourself, who might benefit from it?" Next book that I read was A Lady's Guide to Marvels and Misadventures by Angela Bell. I gave this one a 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. I was having a little bit of a hard time being into it, and I think it's just because I've been a little bit slumpy on and off this month, not having the best track record, or just kind of average or slightly above average, but not like amazing reads all month. And this one was a little bit like just the writing style. It's Victorian era and just a bit slower paced, I think, in the writing style. I enjoyed it though. I enjoyed taking more time with it. The faith threads throughout this one was really well done, I think. Really beautiful, like heavy but not in a way. There were definitely like full on prayers and references to verses and talking about God, like the family is Christian and they talk about him and in relation, but it was like just done so naturally too. It didn't feel super heavy, even though I know that it was like pretty heavy. I will also say that the main character in this is very annoying and very bratty in the first half of the book, but she definitely gets better, so push through. But I really enjoyed it. I really did. The couple is super cute. The adventurer going and following her grandfather's inventions, it's a little steampunky, and I enjoyed that. It had a lot of aspects that were a lot of fun, and I liked the faith themes and threads, so I definitely think I'll check out more by this author. I think she just came out with a second in this series, so I'm kind of curious to pick that one up. And the quote that I have for this one is, "The Lord never promised that life would be safe, but he did promise to be with us always. Whatever the harrowing journey of life may bring, rest assured you shall never be left to face it alone." And then finally, the last book that I read in the month of July was Without a Clue by Melissa Ferguson. I ended up giving this one a 3.75. I know I don't do quarter stars a lot anymore, but sometimes a book just feels like it needs a quarter, and I gotta just go with what I feel like I need to rate it. So I gave this one a 3.75. This is not a Christian novel in any way. It is clean. I believe Melissa Ferguson is a Christian author writing just purely clean in the secular platform, so you know, go her. But this one was kind of like a mystery romance set on a cruise ship with a bunch of old people and old writers. I didn't know what I was getting myself into because I didn't know anything about it before. I just knew it was on a ship and it was supposed to be a romance. I didn't even know it was a mystery until I started reading it. I was like, oh, it's a mystery. So I like mystery. So I actually really enjoyed that aspect personally. I think it brought more fun to it, and I enjoyed this for the most part. There were a couple of small things that I know some people, especially who read purely Christian, might be bothered. A couple of like small comments or something like about someone's backside, you know, like a comment here or there like that. But very much, I think just like one or two throughout. Nothing too big. You can check down below if you want. But I thought this was cute. I immediately loved the romance because you can tell pretty early on who the romance is supposed to be by. I really adored them first off, like right away, and like I knew, and I also knew how it was going to end, but that's pretty typical for me. It was still fun nonetheless. I liked the mystery nonetheless, even though it was not like the craziest, most, you know, unique concept. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Just a nice, clean, cute, fun read. And my quote for that one was, "Life's more fun with people who aren't afraid to be completely and utterly and eccentrically themselves." All right, guys, that is the 10 books that I read in the month of July. As you can see, I broke my 5-star streak, though. This is the first month of this year that I have not had a 5-star. So it was a little bit of an upsetting reading month for me, honestly. And out of the 9 books that y'all recommended to me, I got to 6 of them. So pretty happy and proud of that. Along with that, I did start this one, Singing Through Fire, a memoir by Laura Silverman JD. So I'm not super far, but I did start this one like 4 days before the end of the month. So everything else, yeah, the other 2 I did not start or finish, but I think 6 out of 9 and technically starting one of them is not a bad track record. So I do still have all of the recommendations that I haven't picked from, and I will be periodically doing little videos of 1 or 2 probably in them, like little reading vlogs of reading those books. I'm gonna take them in smaller doses because this was a lot. And so in the month of August, I'm just gonna be purely mood reading outside of some book club books. So I do have Head in the Clouds that I plan to read for Kay from Kay's Library. Her Patreon book club is reading this month by Karen Whittemire, and I'm super excited because I've only read one by her, but it was a 5 stars, so really hoping to get some 5 stars this month again, guys. Along with that, I do also plan to read Love Comes Softly by Jeanette Oak. Me and Kay are gonna buddy read this, so we're super excited. We're just, honestly, I think every book that I have planned, I'm reading with Kay in some sense of the way. The other one is for her book club. And then this one, A Bride of Fallen Stars, I believe, by Victoria McCombs. I am actually co-hosting with Kay at Bloom and Books and Bible. I'm so sorry if I'm saying this wrong. That Keisha host. We are co-hosting this month for this book, and it is a fantasy, clean fantasy, and I believe Victoria McCombs is a Christian author. I don't know if everything she writes is specifically Christian, but it's supposed to all be clean, so I'm excited to see what I think about this one, and it's just apparently the month to buddy read with Kay. I love my girls, so I'm very, very excited. Those are basically the 3 books that I have plans to read this month, and then I do just plan to continue reading this and hopefully finish it up. It is a 500-page memoir though, so hopefully finish it up in August. If not, I definitely want it finished by September, but that's pretty much my only plans for the month of August, guys. Besides that, I'm going to be mood reading for Christy A. Cole's End of Summer Jam mood readathon. I'm just so excited. I need it after this month. I hope I wasn't too saucy for you guys. If I was, I'm sorry. This is just me. Okay, if you like the saucy takes, if you like the rants, this is your place. If you don't, if you want somebody to be, pat you on the head and comfort you, and I got 3 girls, I ain't doing it for you. You gotta toughen up, we got the wrong color crayon. I'm not gonna placate you guys. I have my opinion on books, and I don't like a lot of things, and I'm very vocal about it. I don't try to be mean, but I also try to be truthful. So that's just how I am here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you'll join me for another one. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, I would love it if you'd leave me this little girl, a little sassy, saucy girl, because your girl got sassy and saucy today. It's been a while since I've had an unpopular opinion, so on the one hand, I didn't enjoy not getting as many good reads. On the other hand, I enjoyed a good rant because it's been a while. So yes, I would love it if you'd leave me my little sassy girl in the comments, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because all that helps my channel and helps push it out to other like-minded Christians, all of y'all who like to read, okay? Especially if you have a variety of readers. I don't know what I'm saying anymore, but I appreciate all the love, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!